When you get a blood test, you see a letter, an A, a B, or maybe an O, pinned to your medical file. For most of us, that letter is a forgotten administrative detail until a medical emergency forces us to pay attention. Every red blood cell in your body carries chemical markers on its surface called antigens. These markers serve as identification for your immune system's constant patrol. If the patrol recognizes the marker, the cell passes through. If the patrol encounters a marker it doesn't recognize, it identifies the cell as a hostile intruder and manufactures biological weapons to destroy it. If you are type A, your cells carry the A marker. Type B carries the B marker. Type AB carries both simultaneously. And if you are type O, your cells carry no markers at all, making them invisible to certain parts of this identification system. The presence or absence of these microscopic markers influences your physical vulnerabilities. These chemical configurations are linked to specific risks for heart disease, your response to common viruses, and the long-term preservation of brain tissue. Before we map how these blood groups relate to your health, note that this is an exploration of human evolution and anatomy, not a substitute for clinical diagnostics or medical care. To understand why these risks exist today, we have to trace your blood back to the specific ancient environments that forged it. Nearly half the world carries type O blood. It's the ancestral baseline, the blood of ancient hunter-gatherers, carrying no chemical markers on their red cells. This lack of markers provided a distinct advantage against the malaria parasite. When malaria infects the body, it makes red blood cells incredibly sticky, so they clump together and block blood vessels. Type O cells resist this clumping, allowing the blood to continue flowing, saving millions of lives in regions where the parasite was common. However, that resistance to clumping makes type O blood thinner when you need it to clot. Individuals with this specific blood type produce significantly lower levels of von Willebrand factor, a protein essential for stopping bleeds. This results in a measurably higher risk of severe hemorrhage during physical trauma. Furthermore, the absence of antigens makes type O cells susceptible to other threats. Certain viruses, like norovirus, use specific docking stations on type O cells to latch on. This specific vulnerability makes type O individuals much more likely to suffer from severe gastrointestinal infections that other blood types can completely resist. As humans transitioned from wandering tribes to settled agricultural communities, the environment abruptly changed. High-density living and close proximity to livestock invited new bacterial plagues, forcing the human body to develop a new defensive layer, the A antigen. This A marker triggered a more aggressive immune response. This allowed early city dwellers to better survive devastating bacterial outbreaks, such as cholera, which thrived in the early urban environment. But that aggressive defense now presents a serious cardiovascular risk. Type A blood is naturally much more prone to clotting. When combined with the higher levels of cortisol typically produced by type A individuals, it leads to microscopic blockages that contribute to coronary heart disease and strokes. The very mechanisms that once protected our ancestors from ancient plagues have become the primary drivers of modern heart disease and bleeding complications. Type B blood is the biological signature of the nomad. It emerged as populations moved into the shifting climates and high altitudes of Central Asia. Constant, restless movement exposed these populations to a wide variety of pathogens. Over time, type B developed a highly specialized resistance to the stomach bugs that are so dangerous to type O. In many cases, norovirus cannot effectively infect a type B system. This highly adaptive immune system can, however, severely struggle to correctly distinguish between threats and the body's own tissue. This leads to a higher susceptibility to autoimmune disorders and an elevated risk of pancreatic cancer, as the B antigen can provide an environment where certain cancer cells can more easily hide. When the settled populations of type A eventually merged with the nomadic populations of type B, it created type AB. Carried by less than 5% of the world's population, it is a relatively recent hybrid in human history. Because type AB carries both A and B markers, the immune system recognizes both as friendly. This makes type AB the universal recipient. Their bodies can accept blood from any donor without triggering an immune attack. This chart shows how the chemical composition of type AB blood affects the brain. These individuals produce high levels of clotting factor VIII. This results in blood that is thicker and more viscous, struggling to navigate the microscopic vessels deep within the brain. Over several decades, this thickness causes silent microclots that starve brain tissue of oxygen. This cumulative damage results in type AB individuals being 82. There is one final complication to this system: the positive or negative sign next to your blood type, known as the Rh factor. The Rh factor is a secondary marker, named after the rhesus monkeys where it was first identified. Most people carry this marker and are Rh positive. Those who lack it are Rh negative. This difference only becomes critical in a specific scenario, when an Rh negative mother carries an Rh positive child. The mother's immune system identifies the baby's blood as a foreign threat and produces antibodies to attack the child's red blood cells, a process that requires medical intervention to ensure a safe pregnancy. For those who are AB negative, the situation is even more complex. They represent less than 1% of humanity. Their bodies will reject nearly every other blood type on the planet, leaving them with very few compatible donors in an emergency. However, while their red blood cells are difficult to match, their plasma is a vital medical resource. It contains no antibodies that would attack another person's blood. This means it can be safely transfused into any human being on Earth to stop severe bleeding, regardless of the recipient's blood type. Your blood type is a living record of every environment and disease your ancestors survived. Understanding these chemical markers allows you to recognize the specific vulnerabilities in your own biology and take proactive steps to protect your health.